In the grand scheme of the Conversation Project, we're looking at topical stories, things that are worthy of chatting about, and getting all conversational aspects from anyone out there. And so when we do that, we often go back to look to things in the past. People bring up past issues, and we have to look at them in a lens of today and try to figure out how yesteryear, when they didn't know such better, how they got away with it, how they got past it, how we lived through it. So today's little missive, today's little rabbit hole jump, where we look at Ben Franklin as the bespectacled grandfather of the revolution and compare him to Ric Flair, the dirtiest player in the game in wrestling, sounds like a stretch when you're trying to put the two men together. But guess what? Look a little closer. Both men mastered persona, politics, and performance. Flair won crowds with his robes, his boasts, and his ring psychology, and Franklin won nations wearing fur caps with bon mots and salon psychology. Each could be charming, each could be ruthless, and both utterly pragmatic when the moment demanded. Both understood that image creates leverage. It is the clothes that make the man, and leverage wins titles, or for Franklin's case, treaties, and I guess the world we live in right now. We have 8 pieces of the primes that we figured out where Ben Franklin was actually playing the game and playing it pretty dirty, just like Ric Flair. Master of the gimmick, persona crafting. Franklin's homespun sage and a fur cap look in Paris was not an accident. It was pure branding excellence, calibrated for maximum charm with the French elites. Of course, Flair had the robes, sequins all around, and of course, wearing designer clothes and designer shoes and designer watches. It's a costume that sold a myth that made every room tilt his way before he spoke. When Flair walked into the room, you knew it was Ric Flair. Same with a man who looked a little bit homey, but it was Ben Franklin's look. The weaponized image converted attention to influence. When the man walked into the room, or the man, you caught tension. Promo skills and catchphrases. Flair walked up with the woo and the peerless promos. Meanwhile, Franklin got a promo as well. He had affirmations and pseudonyms that stuck in people's mind when he spoke or wrote things. Of course, you may remember Silence Do Good. We all know Poor Richard and Join or Die. He could frame a complex idea into sticky lines that traveled faster than corrections. Yes, because some of them were not quite as accurate as they should have been. Didn't matter. In politics, as in wrestling, the memorable beats are technically accurate when you need more momentum, as opposed to the accuracy of the actual actions. Heat-seeking antics and mind games. Franklin's forwarding of the Hutchinson letters lit a political fire that torched the royal credibility in Massachusetts. He also used satire and strategy and leaks to make his opponents overreact, and then harvested the backlash from there. Classic heel psychology. Make them mad, dictate the pace, steal the win. You get everybody angry at you and they lose their stuff and they can't act, and you can get the win over them every single time. Backstage politics. Booking the main event. Ric Flair's legendary status as a showcase guy meant a lot of shrewd politicking behind the scenes to make sure that the folks making the money knew that if he won the matches, they'd probably make more money. Franklin includes some of these same sort of intrigues, including court intrigue exactly, and salon diplomacy. Landed French money troops and ships and people around to help us with this here revolution we had back in 1776. He knew whose ego to stroke, whose favorite to court, and when to let others think it was their idea. The more important part of it in the strategy of politicking. The war's booking committee didn't meet without him in spirit because he was a man who knew how to push the buttons. Tag team specialist. Of course, Ric Flair didn't do this alone. He had the 4 horsemen and other folks to be his allies, great managers going forward. Franklin had allies as well. His alliances included the Junta Club, the Committee of 5 for the Declaration, and the Paris Peace Team with Adams and Jay. Pretty much a Legion of Doom in their own. He excelled at hot tags as well, believe it or not. He set up a play, let the partner deliver the blow, then close the segment. The gift was making coalitions feel like co-authors. Everyone that worked around Franklin thought they were in charge of their piece of the pie, their own little action. So if everyone is in there working as a tandem, all work well. Even if Franklin was sort of pulling strings in a lot of cases. Merch king and media empire. Before becoming the statesman that we know of him today, Franklin was pure business. He had a printing network, an almanac franchise, and a postal superhighway for not only postal service, but ideas to travel. That distribution engine made him part publisher, part influencer, and part logistics boss. Just like Flair did his work in the early days of wrestling to sell out territories, Franklin understood that control of the channel is control of the narrative. Knowing how to get your message to whomever made a messenger that much more important. So getting those messages out was much more important when it was time for the revolution. Taking bumps and staying over. After the public dressing down at the Privy Council in 1774, many careers would have ended. Ric Flair hit a couple of bad bumps in his lifetime, including many cases where he essentially was the problem, that it was his, but found some way to be even bigger, even better, and oddly enough, greater in our hearts. Franklin pivoted after this one little action, and he absorbed a hit. He switched alignment from royal servant to revolutionary leader. And guess what? He came back hot. The man could sell, suffer, and still achieve with an encore. This was a guy that could pull off the big win, and then come back in the dark match and show you a little something else for just the fans to see. International touring champion. Guess what? Flair could draw heat from Greensboro to Tokyo. He was a man that when he showed up, the blonde locks were there, the robe was on, the gators were chasing, and the women, well, you know about the women. Guess what? Franklin could work the crowds as well. From Philly to Versailles, he adapted his act to local tastes without losing the brand core. He was Ben Franklin. He stood for America. He may have looked like an old grandfather guy, but guess what? You might want to listen to what he had to say. The portability of his brand and his persona turned a colonial politician into a global statesman, and that helped us win a revolutionary war. The finisher. Know when to lock it in. Ric Flair is the figure four leg lock. When it's locked in, you know it's over because no one gets out of the figure four. Franklin's closing speech urging signatures at the Constitutional Convention and his steady hand at the 1783 Treaty of Paris were figure four leg locks of their own, applied at the exact right moment. He didn't win with brute force. He won with timing, pressure, and no easy escape when it locked in. So when he synced it in, the match was over. It was just a matter of time before the opponent was just going to have to tap out. And so Ben Franklin may not have cut a promo as the style profile and limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing son of a gun. He may not have led Jefferson, Adams, and Hamilton as a legendary wrestling stable, technically. He may not have been the power to hold back John Penn and William Smith from moving up the roster. But as we tend to look at history with a healthy dose of the irony of the present, calling our man Ben a man with more flair than the elementary school books may have portrayed him, it's not much of a stretch. That's what we do around here. We look at things in a sort of a slanted manner, whether it's things from the past to pull them to the present, or things in the present and looking toward the past for some answers or clues. Clues to how we got here, clues to how they got out of it, clues to how they may not have got out of it, and clues to how we may be able to survive. So, history, per the Conversation Project, a little bit slanted, a little bit devious, a little bit of flair, if you will. Thank you, Ben Franklin, for being who you are and being exactly who you are.